All right, so I'm going to walk you through this today. Your job is going to be to annotate. Now, when we're working through, I know for grade influenza, right, we were more focused. That lesson was more for the idea of, find my pages. That was more for the idea of like finding labels and working on finding our labels again and working on our questions and our analysis, right? We were a little off of like our rhetorical situation stuff because it wasn't like your typical prompt. Now we are kind of moving back to our typical prompt, but what we won't have is I won't have the boxes for like the rhetorical situation boxes for you, so you're going to have to annotate on this piece as we go. Now, with that being said, I've told you from the beginning, when we annotate, we never annotate for what? Summary. However, in this point, we're reading a pre-20th century piece, so I still want to test you on your analysis and your labels. So I have to make sure that you understand what you're reading. So I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to read it and help you understand it. I will not analyze it for you. Does that make sense? So I'm going to walk you through and we'll talk about it. So your job is to jot down the things that we're talking about as we're going through. It will be more summary. You'll have time when we start planning to kind of figure out where your patterns and stuff are. Okay? All right, so one of the things that we're going to have to do, because the prompt looks like this, we don't have our boxes, right? Like our typical rhetorical situation boxes, is we're going to write down all the stuff kind of out to the side. So I'll show you that as we go. So the way I've kind of been doing it today is I'll read it and then we'll go back and work it through. So let me read the prompt first and then we'll work our way through. So in 1775, American independence was not a foregone conclusion. While there had been unrest and resistance in Massachusetts with scattered acts of support from other areas, no organized movement toward revolution existed across the colonies. On March 23, 1775, Patrick Henry addressed the delegates of the Virginia Convention. Read the passage carefully. Write an essay that analyzes the rhetorical choices Henry makes to convey his purpose of convincing delegates to secede from Britain. Okay, so you know how like in our rhetorical situation boxes, our first box is like speaker and then audience. So those are things that we went and found. Now what we're going to do is we're going to read it and find the things as we read, right? So when I'm going through, it should kind of look like that, like where you're like circling and jotting things down as we go. All right, so let's start first. 1775, what are things that we know are happening in the country? 1775, what are things that have led up to this?
Britain's been taxing the colonies and angry.
Okay, so Britain has imposed taxes against the colonists. So we could do that 1775. We can also kind of move down a little bit where it says like unrest and resistance, right? The unrest is caused from those taxes. I agree. What else? The Boston Tea Party is going to be part of the resistance, right? So those are some of the things that the colonists are doing. So moving down a little further, you can go to unrest and resistance. So what are the resistance that we're doing? Boston Tea Party, right? The Stamp Act. What else is it that Britain has imposed on us? The Quartering Acts, yep. The Sugar Acts. So these are all things that like we are starting to like upset us, right? That are leading up to this impending revolution. All right. Patrick Henry, so we're going to jump down to Patrick Henry. So we don't know a whole lot about Patrick Henry. So we know that he's our speaker. We can identify that he's a colonist, obviously. And we can identify that because of what the purpose is that he is one of the colonists that want to secede from King George, right? The one thing that you don't know about Patrick Henry is that he was known as a very moving orator. So much like this speech, Give me liberty or give me death is probably one of the most famous speeches, right behind probably the Gettysburg Address in American history, right? So when Patrick Henry goes to speak, he is already known as somebody that is influential in the minds of colonists, right? The Virginia Convention. So the convention was held because it was a gathering of delegates, of colonists, right? Leaders in the colony, to hash out again, do we need to just be passive and stay a part of the crown, or should we seek our independence? That's what this convention was held for. Now, at the time, did most of the colonists want to stay with Britain or leave Britain? Stay. A majority wanted to stay. Why?
Because the North had good treatment benefit them, so they were still, like, they had military protection, they had somebody to train with.
Yes. Yeah. It was a lot about money, right? Like, they are protecting us. We have people to trade with. We have, our economy is supported by them. Like, it's safety reasons. So the majority wanted to stay with Great Britain. Okay. Let's look at our passage now, or at our task. Write an essay that your task begins with analyze. So we bracket that, right? Analyze the rhetorical choices Henry makes to convey his purpose of convincing delegates to secede from Britain. There's the end of our purpose of our task. So where is our purpose in there? Do we have an understand or a do? Okay, and what is the do?
To secede from Britain.
Yeah, convincing the delegates to secede from Britain. That is the do. That's the action that he wants us to take, right? So when we're trying to figure out, do we have the understand or the do, that is the action. To leave Britain. Now the question would be, why should we leave Britain? Like, what do we need to understand, right? So those would end up being our claims, right? What is it that is making us want to revolt? Why should we leave Britain? That's the question as we annotate that we're looking for, right? All right, so those are some things that we found that are from our rhetorical situation. What have we not identified? The big player that I always want you to make sure that you identify. The what? Audience. Yep. Have to find the audience. So I put the audience, like I just jotted it down in this like gray part right here. So who would be an audience that we would identify? Yep.
The delegates of the Virginia Convention?
That's not an audience. Okay, so delegates are colonists that do not want to secede. And on the opposite, we have delegates or colonists who do want to secede. So that's only two. Who else could we say would be part of this audience?
The British government?
Yeah, I mean, they have, so a couple of ones. I would say like the Crown itself, right? The British government, word would get back to them. But then we also, because of the Quartering Act, we also have, we have the soldiers. Yeah, we have the British soldiers that are on land, right? That are hearing this as well. So that would be another audience, right? All right. Obstacles and leverage, we'll have to kind of work that through as we go, right? Like, we may not know that as much right now, but we could probably figure out a few as we go through. So, let me tell you kind of how I've been doing this. So, look through, you can tell this is laid out. I have, what I've done is I've gone in and I've defined words that I think you need to know. I've also given you footnotes of like allusions. So I've actually like given you like the story or the Bible verse that it comes from so that you know that. So make sure you reference that down below. You have plenty of room off to the side to annotate for like summary, right? Because One of the things that I don't think that we are very good at is reading pre-20th century texts and being able to decode it. So pre-20th century texts tend to be a little bit more difficult because of their syntactical structure, meaning like their sentence structure is like more complex than what you are used to reading. So when we read things like this, we blow through the commas and don't pay attention to the pieces and parts, and then you get to the end and you don't understand anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a paragraph to you out loud so you can kind of hear the cadence of what it should sound like, and then I'm going to work my way through sentence by sentence as we go through. When we have a longer sentence, then we'll work ourselves through part, right? Piece through piece. All right. Let me read the first one. Mr. President, no man thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism as well as abilities of the very worthy gentleman who have just addressed the House. But different men often see the same subject in different lights, and therefore I hope that it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen if, entertaining as I do opinions of a character very opposite to theirs, I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery, and in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself as guilty of treason toward my country and of an act of disloyalty towards the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings. All right, here we go. Mr. President. President of what? The convention. Yep. Not a country, because we're not a country yet, right? So it's the president of the convention. So as we said a majority of the people in the colonies and at this convention do not want to leave Britain, right? So this is why he makes this first statement. Think overall, right? Like everything we ever read is always some form of an argument, right? Somebody's always trying to get you to believe, understand something, right? So his end goal, we know from the purpose, is that he has got to convince these people that what they've been doing for so long is wrong. Like we have to secede, right? So he can't come out from the beginning and open up, think like Julius Caesar and think Brutus and Antony's funeral speeches, right? Both of them. He can't come out and go, y'all are a bunch of idiots. What are we doing? We need to revolt, right? Because everybody would be like, yeah, whatever, like go sit down. So he has to convince them, right? So no man thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism as well as abilities of the very worthy gentlemen who have just addressed the House. So what is that? What is he doing? The very opening.
He's acknowledging that people that spoke before.
Okay, but why?
He's saying that he respects them.
Yeah, it's a sign of respect, right? So think the idea of like what we saw when we read Obama's inaugural speech, right? And he addresses like, I think the people that came before me, I think the presidents before me. He has to open up with this sign of respect, right? This sign of respect shows that like, I understand everything that you're saying, and I respect all of the things that are happening and all the things that you have said. So everybody before him has basically said, like, we should not be seceding. But, there's always a but, right? I respect all y'all. Y'all are all patriots. However, different men often see the same subject in different lights. We're going to disagree. We got to see kind of all sides of this, right? So I may view this a little differently than you do. And therefore, I hope that it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen, the ones that just spoke, if, entertaining as I do, opinions of a character very opposite to theirs. So what did he just say? Not yet.
He's like if his views are like
Yes.
He doesn't want to disrespect him.
Yeah, I mean, entertaining as I do, opinions of a character very opposite to yours, I shall speak freely. I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. I respect you. I respect your opinion, even though it's opposite mine. I hope that you don't disrespect me, or you don't see this as a sign of disrespect if I speak out against your opinion. But I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. I'm not going to hold back. You did not hold back, therefore I will not hold back. This is no time for ceremony. Ceremony being like formalities. Right? Like, this is no time for the formalities of discussion. Like, we've got to get down to business. The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. Notice that I defined what awful moment means down below, right? Great importance. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery. He's clarifying, we are not just talking like, should we secede or should we not secede? That's not the question. The question is, do we want our freedom or do we want to be enslaved?
When he's talking about the House, is he talking about just like the people that are at Virginia?
Yes, yeah. It's right now it's held within a church.
Okay.
And they found a church that's like large enough to fit the majority of the people that are there, right? So the House is, yeah, we don't have any kind of form of government yet. And in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of the debate. Okay, so if something is in proportion, what does that mean? Equal, yeah. Proportion means that like it's equally, right? Magnitude means what? Amount, big. So proportion of the magnitude. In proportion to the magnitude of the subject. So the subject is freedom or slavery. That's a pretty big deal. Therefore, that should be the proportion of the debate. So, if what we are talking about is a really big deal, then the amount of discussion and debate we have should be a lot. If we are just talking about should we put a street sign there, little deal, little discussion. Our freedom, big deal, lots of discussion, right? Discussion meaning not hearing the same opinion the whole time, okay? It is only in this way, this referring to like the magnitude of the debate, that we can hope to arrive at the truth and fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. So now I've heard hope twice, right? At the top where it says, I hope that I won't offend you, and we can only hope to arrive at the truth. Should I keep, it is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at the truth and fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. Who comes first? God. Our responsibility is to God first, then country. It is not that way in Great Britain, right? Their first responsibility is to the crown. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time through fear of giving offense? If I kind of hold my tongue and don't say anything because I don't want to offend you, like I don't want to hurt your feelings, so I'm not going to tell you the truth. You know, it's kind of how I deal with y'all and telling you about your writing. I'm going to hold back so I don't offend you or hurt your feelings, right? Right? No? No? I don't think I hold back? Oh, okay. I should consider myself, should I keep my opinions at such a time through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself as guilty of treason toward my country. What is treason? Betrayal. It is a betrayal of your country. It is a betrayal of your countrymen. It is putting your country or your fellow countrymen in harm. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself as guilty of treason towards my country and of an act of disloyalty towards the majesty of heaven. What's a majesty? king, a sovereign. But not King George. The majesty of heaven. Yeah, God. Which I revere above all earthly kings. A little shade. I revere God above the king. Again, God first, right? All right, I'll give you 1 minute. Turn to your partner. Make sure you got all the things that you need to get from that section. See quickly if you find any patterns, and then we'll move forward. All right, moving into paragraph 2. Do y'all like me reading it and then going back and doing it sentence by sentence? Okay. Mr. President, it is natural for man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be of the number of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. All right, so let's go back. It is natural for man to indulge in the illusions of hope. So what does it mean to indulge? Take part in, to give into. Illusion. What's an illusion?
Something that's not real.
Yeah, something that's not real, something that's not there. So I always think of like the old, like, y'all probably didn't watch these commercials or cartoons, but like the old like Wile E. Coyote cartoons where like he'd be running across the desert and he would like see the water, but like there's no water there. So it's like this fake idea, right? So it is natural for man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We're thinking about an argument. What is it that he is doing there? Mr. President, it's natural for men to indulge in the illusions of hope. What do we call that in an argument? Using what? You're connecting with them, but what? So what is that in an argument? Everything's so it's not a counter argument because we haven't countered anything yet, right? So when we talk about argument and like different structures of argument, there are like 3 classical forms of it, and it depends on which version you like, Toulmin, Rogerian, or classical, like which one you choose, how you name it. I always name these. I go into the version of like this is like a concession. Like you are conceding, right? Like so you are agreeing to a point of the other side, right? So when you agree to something that the other side has to say, what does that show about you? That you understand their argument, that you are open-minded, that you understand like the complexity of the argument that's happening, right? So that is, they're conceding, right? So it's natural for man to like hope. Like I get it. Like you could hope things are going to be better. Girls, when you date somebody and like they're not so great and you're like, hopefully it'll get better. Surely it'll get better, right? You continue to wait and it doesn't get better. Like you continue to hope, but then sooner or later you're just going to end it, right? Speaking from experience, y'all will figure it out sooner or later. But so, Mr. President, it is natural for man to indulge in the illusions of hope. Now what I'm hearing also again is another reference to hope. In the beginning, hope was good. I hope that I won't offend you, right? I hope that we can arrive at truth. It's natural to be hopeful. Now we're kind of like a little, sure, it's great to be hopeful. We are apt to shut our eyes. What does apt mean? We are apt to shut our eyes to the painful truth.
Like adjusted?
Kind of. Trained to usually do. Yeah, like apt is like we usually kind of close our eyes to the truth, right? We close our eyes to the bad things. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. So notice down below what I've given you is I've given you a reference to Greek mythology. So this is a mythological allusion. ALLUSIONS. Right? So in Greek mythology, the sirens are sea maidens, like mermaids, whose seductive singing lures men to wreck their boats on coastal rocks. So when the sea maidens come out and the mermaids come out and they start singing, the boat's captains and the people on the boat start to listen. And so as they listen, they're turning their boat towards them, and then they end up going to the rocks and dying. In the Odyssey, an epic by Greek poet Homer, Circe, an enchantress, transforms Odysseus's men into swine after they arrive on her home, or arrive on her island home. Henry's allusion combines both of these. So with Circe transforming Odysseus's men into swine, pigs, she is now in control of them. Right? Okay. So we are apt to shut our eyes against the painful truth, to listen to the song of the siren. Who is the siren?
The crown.
The crown. What is the song that they are singing to us? That they are lulling us to the rocks with?
Like the mercantils and stuff? Like steer.
What do you mean?
Like there's luring the colonists into the trap of mercantilism so they stay as a British colony.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's like the song is like, follow our ways, we'll protect you, right? We're the base of your economy, right? You have to have us. That's the song, like, trust us. Everything's going to be fine. So, who is the swine in this instance then?
The crown?
The colonists, right? So swine are easily controlled. Pigs are easily controlled by man, right? Now notice people are going, like, the people that have spoken before him are like, okay. And then notice the question. You can't ask a rhetorical question until you know that you've gotten your audience to a certain answer, right? Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle? Arduous meaning like really difficult, long. Do wise men know that they're being lured to their deaths? Just continue to be lured to their deaths. Is that what smart guys do? Are y'all smart? Are y'all smart? Because smart people wouldn't do this. So he's kind of like having them logically reason, yeah, no. Like smart people would know that like they're being lured to their deaths. Therefore, we're not going to listen anymore, right? That's logical. Are we disposed of the number of those who having eyes see not and having ears hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? So look down below. It's a reference to Ezekiel, the Son of Man, thou dwellest in the midst of a rebellious house, which have eyes to see and see not, that have ears to hear and hear not, for they are a rebellious house. Okay, so we have so many people here. Of the number of those who having eyes see not. We have so many eyes that are watching the same thing. What are we not literally seeing? Yeah, how we have Britain patrolling us, how we have Britain on our shores, how the king is not doing anything, is not taking any action to help us. Those are the things that we continue to see, but we're just closing our eyes and we're just pretending. Having ears, hear not. All of us are hearing the same thing. We're seeing the same thing. We're hearing the same thing. We're hearing King George just pacify us. We're hearing the crown just pacify us. You're good. You're fine. We'll take care of you. We'll take care of you. This is for your own good, right? We hear those things, but we're ignoring that too. And those are all the things that so nearly concern their temporal salvation. To a Christian, what is salvation? Eternal life in heaven, right? So temporal salvation then is like temporary, like right here, right now. So we see all these things and we hear all these things happening and we know how to save ourselves, but we're just ignoring them. For my part, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but for my part, whatever anguish of spirit, what does anguish mean? Yeah, it's like emotional pain, right? Like it's emotional suffering. So for my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. I have to know, I don't care. I want to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then I have to provide for it, which means what? Change it, yep. All right, let me read the next one or else we won't get done. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging of the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the British ministry for the last 10 years to justify those hopes with which gentlemen have been pleased to solace themselves in the House. Is it that insidious smile with our petition that has been lately received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with these warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our lands. Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back our love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are the implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which kings resort. All right, I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. So notice this is a biblical allusion, right? It's an allusion to Psalm. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. So, whose word? God's word, right? So God's word helps to guide the direction of my decisions, right? Now, if my decisions are guided by God and his word, notice that what Patrick Henry says, mine is the lamp of experience. So what helps me to make decisions on my future? My experiences from the past with Great Britain. So the only way that I can decide what's happening in the future is what has happened in the past with Great Britain. I know of no way of judging of the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the British ministry for the last 10 years. We've been waiting for 10 years. We've been hoping for 10 years. Not a week, not a couple of months, 10 years we've hoped that things would get better. That has pleased the gentlemen, the really smart ones, the ones that are true patriots that I respect, right? That have been pleased to solace themselves in the House. What is it that the British ministry has done in the last 10 years that continues to allow you to hope? What is it that your boyfriend has done for you in the last year that continues to make you hope that things are going to get better? Yes? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare. Oh, wait, sorry. Go back. Is it that insidious smile with which our petition has been lately received? What are the colonists continuing to petition? Petition meaning like to write, right? What is it that the colonists continue to petition the crown to do? Yeah, to like fix our grievances, to lower our taxes. So we have petitioned them, and we go to the crown, we take our petitions to the crown, and the crown smiles at us and goes, of course. Yes, we'll take care of you. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We'll fix all the things. Just give us a minute. We've got you. Right? Is it that insidious smile with which our petition has been lately received? Is that what's giving you comfort? Is they're smiling at us going, we'll fix it? Trust it not, sir. What is the it not to trust?
The crown.
Nope. Trust it. The smile. Yep. It is called an antecedent, antecedent. An antecedent renames is a pronoun that renames a previous noun, right? So it is that smile. It will prove a snare to your feet. What's a snare? A trap, right? Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Another biblical allusion. And while he yet spake, behold, a multitude, and he that was called Judas, one of the 12, went before him and drew near unto Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said unto him, Judas, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss? How did Judas betray Jesus?
He turned him in.
Yeah, he didn't like physically turn him in. He marked him with a kiss, right? So that's how they knew out of the disciples who to take, right? Because Judas was the one that turned him in, right? By walking by, giving him a kiss on the cheek, that cheek marked the one that was to be taken for death, right? So who in this instance is the Judas in this situation? Who's Judas? Who's betraying who? Yeah. The crown is Judas. The crown is betraying us. Why are they betraying us? Because they should have our, like, the good of our people in mind. And they don't. What time did we get out of here?
17.
Ask yourself. So notice that he gives him a question and he gives him the situation, right? Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with these warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our lands. So we have gone over, we've petitioned them. They've smiled at us and said, yes, give us time. We will fix it. And then they go, just give us time. And then the colonists look at their land and what's happening? The army and the military and the ships are starting to come to our land. But wait, you just said you were going to help us. But that's the military. Do these comport? Do these equal? Right? Are these proportionate? Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? Do fleets bring love? Nope. Do armies bring reconciliation? Reconciliation means to fix, right? To appease. Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled? What have we done? Have we continued to be no, we're not trying to barter. It is our way or no way. Have we been shown so adamant to not try to fix this solution in 10 years? That force must be called in to win back our love. Force to win love? Do those comport with each other? Do those equal each other? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are implements of war and subjugation. So do fleets bring love or do they bring war? Do armies bring reconciliation or do they bring subjugation? What does subjugation mean? To subjugate, which means what? Kind of to hold on to, like somebody's under you, right? Yeah. These are the last arguments to which kings resort. The last argument kings resort to is what? Force. Because they'll win. All right, put your name on those papers. You don't have to switch them, pass them forward. I could probably go a little faster tomorrow, right? Y'all starting to understand the pattern a little bit? Pals, I know over the next 2 days, y'all are going to be gone one or the other. Y'all need to look for an announcement from me. Y'all are going to have to come in for tutoring on certain days. So look for an announcement from me. Y'all, put your phones in the numbers that are on your seats. You have new numbers. Why would you continue to put your phone in the wrong numbers?
Hi, can I talk about
You what? Oh yes, please.